Hello everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Oren Dvoskin. I'm the head of product marketing at Morphisec. We're pleased to have everyone here, excited to see the attendees. We have an interesting and exciting opportunity today to speak about automated moving target defense, both as a technology and to hear from your peers. So we have several industry-leading CISOs from top-tier Morphisec customers. Now, we're all familiar with the risks of cybersecurity, with attacks adapting and attackers adapting new and evasive tactics to evade endpoint protection and EDR. And this is what automated moving target defense is here to solve. It's a technology that's been also championed by Gartner quite recently, and we'll mention about that. So we'll also experience today a live demo. And like I said, we have several top-tier panelists. So Michael Gorelick, the Chief Technology Officer of Morphisec, Chuck Markarian, the CISO of Packard, Josh Carlson, the Director of Global Security Operations at Packard, and also a health insurance company, Bupa. So Alexander Rialpa is the Head of Information Security. More about our participants in a moment, and our panelists. So our agenda today, we'll talk about what automated moving target defense is. We'll then experience a live demo to show what we've been speaking about, and a live demo of an endpoint protection solution being bypassed, and then the threat being stopped by Morphisec. And then we'll have a panel with Packard and Bupa, and we'll finally close into a Q&A. So like I mentioned, we have an opportunity to speak with several of your leading peers. So I encourage you to ask questions about their best practices. So Packard is a familiar brand. It is a global manufacturer and designer of trucks. Some of the brands are DAF, Kenworth, Peterbilt, Leyland. It's a $30 billion plus company with several tens of thousands of employees listed part of the NASDAQ 500. Together with Chuck, the CISO, is Josh Carlson, the Director of Global Security Operations, and Alexander Rialpa from Bupa, Brazil and Latin America. So Bupa is a health insurance company from the UK with international operations, today providing service to over 43 million customers, with significant revenues exceeding 14 billion and more than 80,000 employees. So definitely an interesting audience. And Michael Gorelick, the CTO of Morphisec, the innovator of automated moving target defense. So a few words about Morphisec. We were founded in 2014. This is a proven technology. We protect over 5,000 enterprises, over 9 million endpoints, with tens of thousands of threats that we stop per day, with excellent customer satisfaction. In fact, our existing customer base is always growing and rated highly by peers, so a score of 4.8 on our Gartner Peer Insights. Like I said, Morphisec has been championing this technology, and we've been very pleased to see the uptake by the analyst community of the technology, the understanding that threat tactics have been evolving, and then Gartner calling out automated moving target defense as the future of cyber. I will not add too much about that, but if you want to get the report, you can head over to morphisec.com and get your free link. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Michael Gorelick, our CTO, to speak about automated moving target defense. Thank you. Michael?
Yeah. Hi, guys. You see my video, I hope. We will have a very interesting, again, presentation. We are short on time. I'll start with presenting moving target defense, the concept itself, as stated by Homeland Security in 2016, but initially, actually already in 2012, mentioned by NIST as a very important concept, basically to try and reduce the attack surface, reduce the windows of opportunity for the attackers to kind of probe and infiltrate and compromise the endpoints. endpoints, networks, in other areas. In the industry, in the army industry, these concepts were implemented for a while. We'll talk a bit about the deception and the moving target defense and how it combines together. And we, in a way, automate it and commercialize it as a product to solve a problem, which we are going to present in the next slide. So definitely Homeland Security and the whole industry is going a big leap step forward in adopting moving target defense. So let's go to the next slide. Let's define the problem.
Right. Good.
Yeah. So the problem, as we see, and again, there are many reports supporting that problem, external reports, third-party reports. Some of them are described as EPICA security reports. Some of them delivered by Red Canary and other universities. They all kind of take the existing threat landscape and try to map it to the different techniques or tactics that are utilized by malwares. This is important for us to understand where the malware landscape goes to and whether our current security stack has a gap to cover those threats. And we identify very quickly, based on the different reports, that many of the first techniques and tactics are focused around defense evasion, evading the current security landscape, the current EDRs, XDRs, EPPs, and AVs, by means of basically being stealthy within the memory, within the legitimate applications, as it's very hard to detect this kind of threat. And we also see a very sharp increase in credential dumping, credential access techniques that are implemented by the different malwares for later re-engage, later remove, or re-access the environments. And again, those kind of things also target specific applications that process and maintain those credentials. So essentially, the question is, does the current security stack able to handle this landscape of credential access, in-memory defense evasion? And what we basically will prove following in the next couple of slides later on in the presentation, that it's a really challenging problem for a detection solution, because they essentially apply scanning, known behavior matching, known dynamic analysis, but known as the key kind of the key point. They have to be based on already intercepted signature attack and behaviors, and there is impossible to scan the application endless times while it constantly changes its status. So we'll introduce moving target defense to solve this problem, and we'll describe it in the next couple of slides. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so let's for a second kind of quote the Gartner reports, which are doing amazing work. Gartner covering moving target defense. They actually call it AMTD, automated moving target defense, which sounds much more reasonable, and we'll explain why it is so. But where does it come from? So, and essentially, if we look at that automated moving target defense, based on many of the different companies that are right now implementing that, and we'll get to that, including Morphisec, is composed of moving target defense, and a deception concept. So what is essentially a deception concept? Many of you probably are aware. Again, there are some companies in this field that's basically kind of putting decoys, booby traps, honeypots in a way to lure the attackers to those decoy elements. This is a great non-traditional approach, which is important because you are limited to what you can solve with traditional approach. Gartner also basically says, Homeland Security says that perfect security is unattainable. So how do you complement this gap with a different approach? So deception is an approach, is a preventive approach. Unfortunately, it doesn't protect the existing resources and assets that you have. It definitely prevents an attack in some cases, but if the attacker gets to the real resources, then your risk still there. Moving target defense is doing a bit different. It's basically shifting and changing your resources, and the resources could be IPs, could be networks, could be application memory structures, could be credentials, could be everything. So the moving target defense is basically shifting them and hiding those assets. But it lacks the visibility following the prevention of the attack, because essentially in many of the implementations of moving target defense for the different companies, we'll find, hey, containers are shifted, networks are shifted, but you don't really know that you are being attacked, which is important for visibility purposes. So MorphiSec automated moving target defense, and what we basically implement is a combination of the two. We need the prevention, the visibility, but also reducing the attack surface, and we need to augment the existing gap that currently exists with NGAV, EPP, EDRs, XDRs, etc. Now, prevention is kind of a key word here that differentiates us immediately from all the rest of the world, which kind of focuses on detection and response and trying to minimize this gap of time. Prevention is very important, especially when the attackers are compromising environments within a minute, within hours, within days, within sometimes weeks. Okay, let's continue to the next slide. Let's just a bit for the sake kind of education. We are talking about moving target defense. We are not the only one. It's we have great colleagues that are trying to cover the different security stacks as defined by Gartner. Moving target defense can be implemented on APIs, shift left, on networks, on Kubernetes, on containers, on and even on the hardware. Some of you may be familiar with the Morpheus chip. All its focus is trying to solve the in-memory exploit issue by basically shifting pointers utilizing hardware capabilities. Hopper is rotating credentials in the containers. R6 security rotates network topology. We have Dispel shifting virtual machine networks. We have code randomization, and essentially MorphiSec AMTD as the leader in moving target defense establishes a great protection of endpoint servers and workload, focusing on the runtime, application runtime, application assets and resources. We support both Windows and Linux. So let's continue to the next slide. So now we need to talk a bit about what MorphiSec does and how do we implement moving target defense, automated moving target defense. This is the right. So again, what do we protect here? We protect, as I mentioned already, the application runtime memory, application credentials, application assets and resources. But additionally, we also implemented additional protection on the ransomware, anti-ransomware solutions. In a way, we introduce moving target defense to the file system. We protect recovery, tempering of recovery technologies, and basically introduce a very good anti-ransomware solution. So what do? We are extending the Windows and Linux loader, and basically every time the application now loads, and we can next slide, can click on the next slide. Every time the application loads, we create kind of a trusted zone within the application memory. We change how function looks like, we change how structure looks like, only how they looks like in the memory, without changing the integrity of the application flow. So basically, if the application worked with function X, it will work with function Y, etc. So basically, a lot of different changes. We are supported by at least 7 patents, which are already confirmed, and some are on the way, different stages. And when we create this trusted zone and untrusted zone, basically any new foreign introduced code is not familiar with this random trusted zone. Now, it's important that this trusted zone, this randomized morphing changes are unique per application that is being executed, per endpoints, per application, per initialization time. So if the application respawn again, everything is different. So it protects from laterally moving even from application, even if you identified what are the different compromised resources. Now, in the important concept that Homeland Security actually mentions, our goal is to make it more expensive for the attacker. Not everything can be solved, but if it becomes more expensive, the attacker spends a lot of time on creating this attack, trying to bypass this trusting zone. We essentially achieved our goal, and the attacker will opportunistically target different weaker areas. Let's continue with the next slide, and we can jump to the next one immediately. So basically, when we have a foreign code introduced, tries to identify the landscape, tries to identify what are the different changed resources. We not only move the function names, we don't only change the links, we not only move the different resources. As we mentioned, we also introduce deception. We introduce kind of a booby traps within the memory. And due to that, basically this foreign code being intercepted, and being it would fail either way, but we also know very interesting threat intelligence that we can provide and share with the community that can help definitely with the additional preventive measures and your other solutions. Let's jump forward. Okay, so we described kind of very quickly the moving target defense concept that we implement on the application memory or applications runtime, whether you control the application or whether this is a third-party application or off-the-shelf application, anything that runs within the environment. It means any process. We need to understand what is the current security gap. We mentioned the efficacy gap in a way by presenting the reports by Red Canary, by PICOS reports and other reports, which are telling us 30%, 40% of the attacks are in memory. Additional percents, 20% are like credential tapped from the application memory. But there are additional gaps that exist today when you are working with your security stack, such as EDRs and XDRs. You have issues with supporting legacy operating systems. You have other operational issues of alert fatigue, right? Trying to handle and process all those alerts that are coming and processed from the other solutions. And in many cases, you may disregard those alerts, and you may not have resilient security that can protect your operating system, legacy operating system, or critical system, or even sensitive systems. And this is a very important gap that we want to cover additionally to the efficacy. So let's move to the next slide. So again, very quickly, because we are on the end of time that we have. So again, we provide automatic legacy operating system protection. We protect sensitive environments quite easily. We have a preventive approach, and we are focusing on those attacks that really bypass the security solution, and therefore moving target defense really can cover this additional gap that is important still to cover with your the other threat still need to be covered by your existing solutions, which are great for visibility and non-threat protection. Let's continue with the next slide. This is some of the examples of different customers. In most of the cases, 99% of the cases, we are installed side by side with existing EDRs or XDR solutions. We have here cases of SentinelOne, CrowdStrike, and others. They operate a bit differently. You will find that we, as a last layer of defense, find some attacks that penetrate some solutions only in memory. Other solutions are more prevalent to custom packed executables. In many of these cases, if not all of the cases, we still find Cobalt strikes, backdoors, Metasploit backdoors, Catbot Trojans, ransomwares, which are side-loaded DLLs. We can dive into many of those use cases, but the fact is still that after bypassing the first scanning, they get to the malware prevention layer, and we prevent them, and we'll show an example of that case in the next demo. Okay, let's go forward. Next slide. We can jump very quickly over the slide, but the slide essentially says, hey, we have tons of threats here, and even if EDRs and XDRs catch, and they are intercept many of those threats in a specific time, the question is this gap of the threat happening, and then the different AVs, EDRs updating their behavior signatures, the dynamic signatures, what happens in between. And there are always someone that is being attacked. First, second, third. In some of the cases, we find out the leading EDRs have 3 weeks until they update their signatures, so 4 weeks, even behaviors. Okay, so let's jump to the demo session together with Jay. Jay, maybe you can share your screen and we'll start presenting the demonstration.
Sure.
Jay,
Oren.
hello, Jay. Yes.
Hello, Oren. Can you allow me sharing?
Yes. Go ahead.
You need to stop sharing.
Okay.
So yeah, Michael.
Yeah, go ahead. So what basically Jay will show us is a demonstration, as a by the book demonstration of a simple but very popular kind of attack chain kill, in which a person gets to the phishing email with a social kind of engineering link. He opens this link, he gets to execute basically right now a script, which is very popular following the Microsoft announcement that macros are disabled. We see threat actors and adversaries targeting more links, archives, and anything that you can download basically within your from your website. It's what we see here is kind of trustworthy website. Shows that you can show them a website that presented to the customer, kind of a social engineering concept. The target basically is being right now executed the script execute PowerShell behind, surprise, surprise. So we have here a very representative attack chain. We didn't change too much from what you usually have, aside of changing a bit, randomizing some of the signatures. And this kind of represents an example of how to bypass existing solutions. In our case, we have a defender, right? Fully active and updated. And we have already a Metasploit-based kind of framework, very similar to Metasploit and Cobalt Strike. And we can identify immediately that we have a full session compromise. This is a framework that is within the cloud infrastructure. So we basically have a control over an endpoint, which is Windows 10 on the other side. Here we have on the Windows 10 that is being compromised. Quite easily, we see that there is a control, there are processes that are running without the user knowing about that, right? So very soon, Jay will execute a couple of very basic things like key logging functionalities and others. Now, it's important to explain that all those attacks are working against leading EDR solutions. We obviously are not going to present those here, but we invite customers and for personal demonstrations or potential customers, and we're happy to show you how it works there. And again, if there's an interest to close the gap, we will definitely would like to work with you. Here we have basically Jay opening a new notepad process and opening a keylogger sniffer. So right now the target can type whatever he wants, and the attacker have a full accessibility to all the keys that are being typed on the other side. So we have here hello world as an example, a full control. And the defender, can you show that the defender is active and we are good? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we have here real-time protection, cloud delivered protection on, and it's fully active. Let's minimize that and continue. So well, let's demonstrate maybe one more case of exfiltration of information. I believe you have some kind of password file on the disk, and we want to exfiltrate this information back to our C2, right? And we will finalize that demonstration with this password exfiltration. Perfect. So right now we stolen information. We can basically exit the session. The user never knows. Similar cases work very well with side-loading DLLs. But the whole point, which it's easy, even if it's being detected in hours, even in a day, usually happens over the weekends when your response is slower. There is no prevention. If we'll run Morphisec, we'll have automatic prevention. So we already ran it before. So let's either you start it or we can jump immediately to the console because we have to wrap up very quickly.
Sure. So this is the console, Michael.
Yeah, you can minimize a bit the screen because it's minimize the percentages.
You want to minimize?
Minimize the ratio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So we have here very quickly, we have a console, multi-tenant console. Right now we have access to one account, but essentially if we are working with MSP or MSSP, they have a full multi-tenancy view and multiple accounts access. We have a score that is based on threats that are reviewed, protects agents that are upgraded or not upgraded, policies, and we have additional asset information if we want to see that as well. Let's check out our threats and the preventing of Morphisec activity when Morphisec prevents it. Yeah. So we have a nice trajectory with the contextual information that is mapped to MITRE automatically. A PowerShell. Let's scroll down to the process element. Yeah. And we see we have the full command line execution with the C2. And if you like, we have also a contextual threat log on the right side. We can download and get all the information about the threat, including in-memory information as well. So we can close it, but we would definitely would like to, maybe if we have time, can you run the attack again with Morphisec, please?
Yeah, we have a
Sure.
couple of minutes before we jump
Okay,
into it.
because yeah, I'm being pushed on the right side.
No, it's
So
yeah, okay.
55 seconds.
Okay, 55 seconds. Let's execute the attack again. Yeah.
No rush.
Okay. So we have here again, the script is being executed right now. PowerShell is being spawned. This PowerShell right now tries to communicate with the C2 and download a shellcode that represents the backdoor. Here curl is basically executed to try and download the shellcode. As soon as the shellcode in memory is being downloaded and executed, we have Morphisec prevented. Let's close it as well and jump to the console.
Yeah.
Okay, to the console. So basically, it's the same threat. We can obviously see that we have a new threat, yeah, and which requires for reviewing, as I mentioned already, mapped to the MITRE techniques. It's also have classification and all the rest of the information where it was prevented, as we see a shellcode that tried to access critical functionality. We will not do the full demo of the console, but we would like to invite you to have a demo with us and review the whole functionalities, including risk, core execution, vulnerability management, representation, and deep visibility into the application runtime, which we also provide as part of our services, as part of our product. Okay. This time we will finalize the demonstration and jump to the panel.
All right, so thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Jay and Michael. It's always fascinating to see the demo live. You know what we can do with our customers. You know, you can do your personalized demo, but you know, if you go into a proof of concept, we can also run this tech framework on your own environment. So with that, do we have everyone on the panel? So Michael, Chuck, Josh, and Alexander. All right, can you hear? Are you with me?
Yeah, we are.
Yes.
Okay, so for some reason I cannot see all of the panelists. So we went through a very quick review of automated moving target defense. We saw it in action live, how it can bypass. So first of all, maybe each one of you can say just a couple of words about yourself. We'll start with Josh. Sorry, with Chuck.
Sure. I'm happy to be here today. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Very well.
All right. Happy to be here today. I'm Chuck Markarian. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at PACCAR. I've been at PACCAR 18 years now. I've always been in a security role. I've been in the lead security role for probably about 15 of those years, and PACCAR's first title is CISO, and that's been about 7 years now. And it's a global role.
Fantastic. Josh, hello.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me on here. It's a pleasure to join. My name is Josh Carlson. I'm the Director of Global Security Operations. I work for Chuck Markarian. I've been at PACCAR for almost 7 years now, and have been working with MorphSec for a good portion of that.
Fantastic. Hello, Alexander. Thank you again for joining.
Hi, Oren. Thank you for having me here. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Alexander Realpe. I'm the Manager for Information Security and IT Governance for Bupa, and I've been working with them for about 2 years now. And yeah, more than 2 decades working in cybersecurity and IT.
Fantastic. So we have representatives here from manufacturing and insurance, which is a unique combination. So I wanted to ask, what brought you both to select MorphSec? Maybe we can start with Chuck, because you've been PACCAR has been a customer of MorphSec for a while. I mean, we went through several endpoint technology waves. With PACCAR.
Yeah, it's almost kind of a funny story. I get, as most CISOs do, tons of cold calls, and I happened to get a cold call one day from a gentleman, and I thought I recognized his name, and he was talking about this thing called moving target defense, and I thought, oh, I'll take this call. And it ends up I didn't know him from the past like I thought I had, but that's okay. Anyway, we talked a lot about moving target defense. I was very intrigued with it. It was something I hadn't heard about way back 8 or so years ago. And we were looking for how we could improve protection on our endpoints at the time. So we got the demos, did a proof of concept, and decided, hey, this looks really good. It's a great way to augment what we're doing already, and started the journey.
And it was interesting, you know, that you went through several technology waves, then I would say. Mm-hmm. Can you say a few words about that?
Yeah, so, you know, at that point in time, we had basically antivirus, and that was about it from Microsoft. And so we added on MorphSec. From then, we expanded on what we were doing outside of MorphSec, and we now also run a combination of MorphSec along with an XDR product. The XDR product gives us a lot of visibility and forensics capability and repair capability and such, and some good integration with our other products. The thing I like about MorphSec is it's prevent. It just stops stuff from running. So it's a great combination. You know, if it's prevented and we don't have to deal with it, that's awesome. But we can also use our XDR to gather other data around it to kind of understand what happened a little bit more.
Fantastic. Alexander, want to add a bit? You had a completely different background that what connected you to with MorphSec. So.
Yeah, our story is interesting because in the last 2 years since I took the management of this area, we have invested a lot of effort and money trying to improve our security posture. So we expand the coverage of the EDR solution and vulnerability scanning solution We did also a replacement of our patching solution and hardening. We even run a ransomware simulator, and the report came green. So we also apply artificial intelligence for pen testing and incident response. We have our CM solution with enhanced our CM solution with the advanced analytics to be more accurate about the alerts and everything. And we also automate playbooks and etc. So we thought we were in a very good position, very well protected in our endpoints. So, but we have this continuous improvement and innovation program that encourages us to always look for new solutions, new technologies, new tools. So that's how we found Morphisec. And at the beginning, we were very skeptical. We thought it was just another EDR. So, but they told us about this new concept of moving target defense. At the beginning, it was a little bit hard to understand and to explain the concept to the executives, but we give it a try. And we were shocked. We were shocked with the demo because it was very easy. It was less than 5 minutes and a couple of clicks of unsuspecting user with normal privilege to open a backdoor and enable remote code execution in our network. So that was shocking. So we definitely decided to invest in this technology. Yeah, very happy with the results.
So, I mean, it sounded like, I mean, both your company, both your companies are leading organizations. It sounded like you had almost, and I saw Chuck nodding, it sounded like you have everything that you should have on your security stack. And you mentioned the ransomware tests, that everything was green. So I assume green means good, right? That
yes.
Everything was protected. What happened then with Morphisec when you run
the thing is, this ransomware simulator simulates around 21 of the most effective ransomware attacks. So our security controls were able to stop all of them. So all the 21 were stopped. So we thought we were very well protected. So we were confident about our security controls.
Yeah.
But then Jay came with this proof of concept and showed us that it was very easy to bypass the EDR as the way we see it in the demo.
Right. Yeah. And as we mentioned previously with Michael Gorelick, we have added a dedicated solution to protect against ransomware impact phase. So the encryption to protect against file encryption and file destruction. Josh, anything else from your perspective, what you're looking to solve?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the big things that we found as we worked with the product was that it, as Chuck mentioned, it just blocked things. So as we worked with our external security advisors and external companies for assessments that we do on a regular basis, I mean, we found over the years that we have to actually turn off Morphisec in order to be able to allow them to move further in and actually run those to their tests. So it was really a good way for us to see the effectiveness of the product.
So what you're saying actually is that you have periodical pen testing, right? As leading firms should have. The pen testers would try to run the solution or would try to run their attacks, and Morphisec would prevent it. So you would have to turn off Morphisec for them to do their work. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's correct.
And what, I mean, yeah, and Chuck, I mean, I'd assume, what are, I mean, obviously you get good grades, right? I like when my kids come home with good grades from school, but what are the benefits that you can get when you get good grades on your pen tests on that annual evaluation?
Yeah. So what we're seeing is, cybersecurity insurance is becoming very, very expensive. It's becoming harder to get. You're seeing people's contracts not renewed because they're asking a lot better questions. I'm not convinced they understand the answers yet, but they're asking a lot better questions. And so some of the firms are using companies such as BitSide or Security Scorecard or other ones like that to look at your scores and look at your ratings and things. And because of the combination of what we've done with Morphisec and the other tools we have in place, we're getting better scores out of those. And thus we're helping keep our cybersecurity insurance policies from skyrocketing. So it's been a big help for us. And it's not purely Morphisec, but that is one of the things that has helped us. And then I just kind of want to add on to what Josh was saying. You know, it sounds weird. Well, you're going to take down your security so these pen testers can get in. Well, we did that purposely because we wanted to say, let's say they could get through. Let's say they could get inside. What could they then do? So it gave us the ability to just kind of see how they could move laterally, what other things they could do. And in some cases, we could then look back to Morphisec and say, had they got past there and they got inside, would Morphisec have stopped these other attacks that would have been lateral movement attacks? So it gave us good visibility.
Right. So it gives good visibility on the value that Morphisec can bring and the prevention of the tactics. But I think one of the key points that I'm hearing is prevention, right? So other solutions, right? Granted, EPPs and EDRs all have preventative components, but there is a heavily reliance on detection and response. And the moment you're in detection and response, there's an element of time. So we sometimes talk about 60 minutes for the critical breakout period where attackers can achieve privilege escalation and lateral movement. And after that, it's harder to remediate. So, you know, if you have a well-functioning XDR, you can respond within that time frame. And if not, you probably have an ongoing event. And the advantage of Morphisec, as Michael Gorelick explained it, is we stop that cold, right? We first prevent, and that can help buy you time and help maybe prioritize alerts. So it sounds like that there's some valuable use cases here, but what about, maybe Alexander, what about the deployment? I mean, there's sometimes deployment and updating and support. Sometimes there's hesitance about bringing in new solutions. So what has been your experience with Morphisec?
Yeah, it was great. It was great because the installation is completely unattended. It required almost no maintenance at all. It is just, like they say, set and forget. We had not any conflict with any application, any business application, no false positive, and no performance impact. So we have zero incidents created since we deployed Morphisec. So it's running smoothly and yeah, completely unattended.
Interesting. It's great to hear. And Josh or Chuck, did you deploy this just on endpoints or also on servers, workloads? I mean, can you say a few words how wide-ranging your deployment was?
Yeah, I'll start and let Josh kind of take it from there. We deployed, again, it was probably about 8 years ago when we first put it into play. So early on. So we've been through many iterations too of the product and upgrades and updates. And truthfully, it's been very, very smooth. I think in the initial installation, we had a couple of our applications that it was blocking for us, and we worked with you guys and quickly fixed it. But in general, we've had no issues. You put it in place and it just runs. And our focus had always been on the desktop, the endpoint, which we felt, hey, if we can stop it there, that's where most of the risk is. And then lately, and I'll let Josh talk to this, we have bought server licenses and we're in that process too.
Interesting. Josh, yeah.
Yeah, so I would just say that, just to follow up what Chuck said, initially we started with workstations and we have a really strong change control process that we work through and test all of our deployments very effectively. And it meant that we caught a few things as we went through that deployment process, but working with the Morphisec team, we were able to address those issues very quickly. They were very responsive on that. And it was generally because of either a legacy or a kind of non-standard type application. Older,
right. So
manufacturing company, we have this.
Right. So there definitely is an advantage also. I mean, you mentioned legacy systems. So, for instance, with the older Windows versions, some of them reaching end of life this year, Windows 7, 8, 2008 R2, 2012 going end of life and end of the year, right? So some of them don't have the fundamental, Microsoft is doing a fantastic job with, security, but some of the older operation systems don't have all of those capabilities. But we have had another webinar and blog post around that. So Morphisec often brings lots of value to legacy systems. And Alexander, I understand you're also starting to deploy on Linux. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We have a lot of servers there in Mexico, Linux servers. So at first we were a little bit in problems with those the Linux servers because they require a different set of controls for that specific platform. So it was a little bit difficult to get all the controls the same way we have it in the Windows servers. But with Morphisec, it was very transparent. It was very easy to deploy Morphisec, and now we have all those servers protected.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic to hear. So yeah, a lot of these systems can be running, mission critical, business critical solutions. So you want something that has a very low impact. But all this sounds great. But we're today, we're in, we're in challenging economic times. What would you say here to your peers? Maybe not just about Morphisec, but how to prioritize and why. Alexander, you said you have an innovation program at Bupa. Why should you go ahead and consider these type of advanced technologies, even in today's realities? Maybe Chuck, can you say a few words?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, kind of like Alexander said, we have a complete stack, SIEM and web filtering and yada, yada, yada. We have that whole package there. But again, I just keep going back to prevent. Anything that we can prevent from happening takes less time for my folks to deal with. It's less impact to the business, all of that. So for us, the cost and what we pay for Morphisec is not that much, but the value it brings and the preventative nature of it far exceeds any costs that might occur should something get through and not be prevented. So it's a staple for us. It's not something that we will go away from. We'll continue to push Morphisec to be the best out there and challenge you guys on that. But the technology itself is not something I see us moving away from. And we also, like Alexander said, we've also moved it to our servers, and we're working on our Linux environment as well with it. So we see it as a complete suite and a very good investment of our money.
Thank you, Chuck. Alexander, any additional perspectives, to
Yes.
your peers in these times?
Maybe there is something here that maybe it can be useful for the rest of the audience. The concept of moving target defense is a little bit hard to understand and to explain to executives, because they are going to ask, the first question is, why we need this if we already have the complete stack of the EDR and all the other solutions? So the way we found to explain this easily is we have the crown jewels and we have it in a room, in a complete closed room. There is only one door. So the traditional approach in security is to enhance that door, make it stronger, make it more robust, maybe changing the lock and putting a better lock. But there is always a way to someone to pick the lock. Okay, so this is a different concept. With Morphisec, what we found is that technology is capable of hide the lock and move the door. So the attacker is not going to know where to attack. And additional to that is the decoy. So it's going to replace that door with a dummy door. So if someone touch that door or even look at that door, we're going to know is an attacker, because all the other applications, the legitimate application, know where the hidden door is, and is not going to touch the decoy. So those two things together are very powerful. It's a complete different approach, and it's going to improve the protection we have in the endpoints.
Yeah, thank you, Alexander. I mean, that echoes Gartner's VP analyst Carl Mannion said about the moving target defense. He did a military comparison. So say if you have a sniper, one way is to invest a lot of resources scanning for the sniper. The other one is just to move the target, and maybe to place a decoy instead of the original target. So when you hear it being hit, you know something is happening. So that's in essence, and you get forensics about it. So that's in essence what moving target does, right? So instead of investing efforts in scanning and detecting, then move around your resources to protect it. I wanted also to ask, before we move into the Q&A, any personal notes that or I believe that you would want to share with the audience before we move on, because I do see we have a couple of additional questions. So we did have several questions. Most of them I see were answered throughout the sessions. Yes, so our software is for endpoints. So that means desktops, also servers and workloads, both Linux and Windows. The way it's deployed, so we have this the agent installed in these points, and we have a central management console, as we saw in the demo, that is cloud-based or can also be on-prem. And we provided, so that's one question. We had several other questions around APIs to integrate. So yes, our solution can be API driven. I see other questions there were answered. Michael Gorelick, would you like to add anything more at this point?
No, I think again we are going to present a very interesting webinar. Did you say a couple of words about that very soon about supply chain and manufacturing?
Yes, I will say about that, and also wanted to add, if you want to experience the demo you just saw, you can contact us. So first of all, yes, Morphisec recently uncovered a supply chain attack at one of our customers. We did an end-to-end analysis and engaged the customer, also engaged Morphisec for incident response services. And
let me explain. It's not a single attack. What we are going to talk in and present the webinar is number of cases that during 2023 that we prevented. There will be a real cases attacking manufacturing from within through supply chain protections. We will basically talk about the risk. In each and every case, they had advanced security stack protection, how basically Morphisec helped to minimize the time to respond and obviously prevent the threat from being much worse. So this will be very interesting webinar that we are going to show, and we invite others to join.
Excellent. We'll, please follow our socials and our website to see the date for that. So with that, first of all, I wanted to thank our guests from PECAR, Chuck Markarian, the global CISO, Josh Carlson, the Director of Security Operations, Alexander Rialpa Gonzalez from Bupa, Latin America. Thank you very much for showing up, for contributing, also all the preparation work you've done, all the kind words you said about Morphisec, also to Mr. Kalpesh Shah from CIPLA, very kind of you to participate. So if to wrap things up, we learned today about automated moving target defense. Morphisec sees it as the evolution of endpoint protection, right, to prevent unknown and undetectable and highly evasive threats, and it's prevention first. So Morphisec blocks the attack. It also buys you time for remediation. And as our guests here mentioned, it is also highly operationally efficient, requires no additional headcount, has minimal performance impact, very high fidelity alerts that help you prioritize responses. And as we heard, it's very easy to install, maintain, and operate. So with that, we'll be posting the recording of this session online. I want to thank every one of you. We had an excellent attendance for this session, so you can follow the on-demand version, and please reach out if you want a copy of this presentation, or if you would want to experience a live demo yourself. Again, thank you everyone who are participated, and with that, we've concluded the session for today. So thank you very much.